Hey, we are live on the internet. Welcome, 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 everybody. We're going to be talking about all kinds of fun crypto-related stuff today, so make sure to bring in your questions. Always happy to answer questions in the chat, so feel free to pop those over there, guys. Now we're going to be talking about the rise of cryptocurrency exchanges, basically the increasing power and dominance of cryptocurrency exchanges and how influential they have become. So we're going to be talking a bit about that. So make sure to be dropping your questions in if you guys want to have any questions answered. But we'll be going through a whole bunch of different stuff today. So feel free to just sit back, relax, and enjoy the chat as well if you want. Let me just see if that's going to go over there on Twitter or not. It does not seem like it's going to go. Oh, it did. Yay. Excellent. Excellent. Hey, Mr. Harry Lasagna, welcome to the party. Welcome to the party, everyone. Wendell K. Singh, Rick Viper Moto, Bobby Brent. You guys rock. Thank you for hopping into the impromptu chat today. So, the topic of today, let's just jump right into it. And that is really that the cryptocurrency exchanges are becoming incredibly, incredibly powerful. So let's just hop over to this one right here. So, basically, the concept, and I saw this a while ago, I've been thinking about the topic, and I saw a news report today about how much Bitcoin the exchanges have, and it really got me thinking. The exchanges, they are becoming the new banks of crypto land. They are becoming the new masters of finance. And it's very, very interesting to see how powerful they are becoming and the services that they are starting to offer. I mean, we have exchanges that offer debit cards, for example, where you can, pay with your card. And you have Coinbase, for example, which is doing custodianship. So they've got vaults, right, for your cryptocurrencies. We have some exchanges that are getting into golds, for example, metals. I mean, Bitpanda's been offering metals for a long time, for example. And this recent announcement from Coinbase about offering interest, that shows, about offering interest on their USDC holdings. Sean Ruffalo saying, use BISC. Use BISC. Yeah, BISC, in case you didn't know, is a kind of an alternative to local Bitcoins, where it's a peer-to-peer platform where you can buy and sell Bitcoin. So it's a pretty cool service. If you haven't checked out BISC yet, definitely worth having a look at anyway. So Coinbase is going to start offering its users, I think it's 1.25% on their USDC holdings. Yeah, 1.25% per year. Now that, to be fair, is a lot better than a lot of commercial banks in America. But that's not saying very much. It really, really is not saying very much. Just because commercial banks offer mind-blowingly low rates like 0.01% on your savings accounts, well, this is not a replacement to that. Because, let's keep it real, if you're going to trust Coinbase with your money, well, then why wouldn't you trust another service with your money that's going to offer you way more money? It's, the old saying, right? Your keys, your Bitcoin, not your keys, not your Bitcoin. Well, that actually comes down to a lot of different things. And I think with stable coins, it's a whole nother level of weirdness, because with stable coins, you have to trust a third party that the money is in the bank. Obviously, that's been a big problem with Tether, which we'll talk about a little bit later. But with things like USDC, yeah, they are more transparent in who they're banking with and all this kind of stuff. And they are more regulated and all of that fun stuff. But Randy's asking, what do you think about the Fed announcement today? We're going to get to that later in the video. So that'll be coming. That'll be coming, Randy. But if you look at these other services, I mean, there's risk in all of it, right? There's risk in keeping your money in the bank. I mean, the FDIC in the United States only covers around 1% of deposits. 1% of deposits. 1% of deposits. That's insanity. I have this feeling like most people think, oh, my bank's FDIC insured, I'm going to be fine. No, you're not going to be. If there's a systemic problem for the entire banking sector, which we have systemic problems. I mean, just look at the overnight repo market. Something's wrong. Something's wrong there. Your money's not actually safe anywhere, really, when it comes down to it. And it's just degrees of safety, much like degrees of decentralization. How safe do you feel with your banks? Personally, I don't feel super safe with any bank. You look at all the stuff that banks get up to. Why would you feel safe with banks? Anyway, so Coinbase is offering 1.25%, but you can go over to a lot of other different services and get way better percentages. You know, you can go to like crypto.com or BlockFi, and they offer way, way better percentages on your USDC holdings, for example. Or if you want a decentralized option where you remain in control of your private keys, Compound Finance also offers way higher rates for their USDC. So even though Coinbase is becoming a bank, it's becoming just like the banks in the sense that, yeah, it's out there, it's offering the services of a bank, but let's keep it real. They're following in the footsteps of banks by really not offering super awesome services. And in the same way that banks love to innovate, Coinbase has also been innovating recently. Did you guys see Coinbase's most recent innovations? You're going to love this. I know a lot of you guys will have seen this innovation. It's a big, big innovation. And if you watched yesterday's video, you know what banking innovation looks like. Coinbase Pro is increasing its fees. Now, I'm sure a lot of you guys already know about that. Basically, I think it's, was it 233%, something like that? Some insane percentage their fees went up by over on Coinbase Pro, which put them up to 0.5%, which is, I mean, yeah, if you do higher volume trades, you get, you know, more discounts, but that's some of the highest rates in the industry. So that's innovation. Coinbase, the bank you can trust. Sort of, kind of. Anyway, it's crazy to see such a big increase on fees in Coinbase, and I think that's what happens any time that you see a situation where one organization gets too damn much power. They start to abuse that power, exactly like Coinbase Pro is doing. E-Rock, thank you so much for the donation, my man. Really appreciate it. And look, Coinbase has already been crazy. If you're using your debit or credit card to buy Bitcoin on Coinbase, I mean, you might be looking at fees like up, 3.99%. I guess it's not 4%, it's 3.99, but holy cow, that's basically 4%. That's a lot. But Coinbase Pro has always been kind of the little bit savvier way. You send your bank transfer through, you get the money on there, you buy it, and it was much, much, much lower fees. Well, they've increased that too to kind of close the loophole and make sure that they're making as much money as possible. Look, can you blame Coinbase for that? No. Does that mean you should continue to support Coinbase and not look for other options? Also no. Look for other options. There are other options out there, absolutely. Sam asks, out of all the hodlers out there, how long do you guys plan to hodl for? Well, that's an very interesting question, Sam. And everyone else can answer that in the chat as they like. But for me, I look at HODLing, right? And how long I'm going to HODL my Bitcoin for. And there's a lot of different answers for that. Because I've got some Bitcoin that it's just there. I have no intention of doing something with it. And if I do something with it in the future, it's going to be my preference. And we're talking, years and years down the line here. Once we've really gone through a big portion of that price discovery phase. But my preference would be to not cash the Bitcoin out just for cash money, but to actually take that Bitcoin and exchange it for example, land or some kind of services with somebody who would appreciate getting that Bitcoin. So to change it from the hands of one hodler to another hodler, that would be my dream for my long-term Bitcoin hodlings. But everyone else can answer that as they see fit in the comment section. Jason, thank you so much for the donation, Jason. Hopefully some competition will come in with lower prices. I plan to hodl for 10 generations. That's a lot of hodling, my man. A lot of hodling. Your grandchildren will thank you, without a doubt. That's awesome. And I think the competition question in terms of Coinbase is user-friendly. A lot of new users end up there, but hopefully we will see more people moving around. Hey, the Having Show! Lark, we love your work. Cheers from Norway. Thank you so much for the donation. Really, really appreciate it. Norway, man, one of those countries I would absolutely love to visit. I was watching Lost LeBlanc's travel videos the other day. He makes great travel videos, by the way. As I was watching his videos, I was like, Norway. It's definitely on the bucket list of places to go in the future. Silver Sobe asks, what is the best alternatives to Coinbase? Well, there's a lot of great alternatives to Coinbase. It really, I think a lot of it depends on what state you're in, particularly if we're talking about the US context here, or what country you're in, because different countries have different options. Different states in the US also have different options, but man, there are a lot with just lower fees. I mean, Bitstamp has lower fees, Kraken has lower fees, Binance US has lower fees. I mean, basically everybody, most everybody has got lower fees. I think Gemini might not have lower fees. I'm not an expert, don't use Gemini, but Gemini might actually have higher fees than Coinbase unless they change their fee structure. But Jason says Gemini is better than Coinbase. Guys, get answer this in the chat. Does Gemini have lower or higher fees than Coinbase at the moment? So hit me up down in the comment section with that, and we'll see on that. See, I'm saying interesting questions coming through here. Don't plan on cashing out. I hope I don't need to. Plan on spending it, says Ripley. That's in regards to the earlier question on how long are you going to hodl your Bitcoin for. Fritz, nice to see you on the live session as well, my friend. So that's just the Coinbase context, right? And Coinbase is definitely taking advantage of their position. Bobby asks, do you feel Coinbase is more secure and trusted? I think, Bobby, that's, for a lot of people, that's probably where they think, right? And that's the perception. Oh, well, you know, Coinbase is more secure, Coinbase is more trusted, Kraken's secure and trusted, Bitstamp's secure and trusted, Gemini is secure and trusted, Binance is secure and trusted. I mean, that's the thing, is it's just a place where a lot of people end up and then they kind of stick there. And that's what happens with a lot of services. I mean, Coinbase has, what, 25, 30 million people who have accounts on Coinbase. It's a crazy amount of people who have signed up for the service, and people, they get comfortable. They don't need to look around, try and find, you know, fees that are 80% less in some cases. They just do what they've always done. As the fees go up a little bit, whatever. Those fees, man, those add up over time. They add up over time. Ray T, hey Lark, do you ever plan on doing a breakdown of your portfolio in percentages? I do, Ray. Maybe that'll be my next live stream. Maybe I'll do that next week for you guys. And during the live stream, I don't have a sweet pie chart made at the moment for it, but I'll make a pie chart, and we can talk about that next week. Perhaps that would be a fun topic, I suppose, because it's definitely changed a lot since the last time I did it, as you can imagine. People asking about Robinhood, whether Robinhood's a good place to get Bitcoin. From what I know about Robinhood, I don't use Robinhood, so if this is not the correct information, somebody please correct me down in the chat. But with Robinhood, you can trade, buy and sell Bitcoin on Robinhood, but I don't think you can withdraw or deposit Bitcoin on Robinhood. So if anyone out there using Robinhood, can you confirm that down below? Tyler says you need a military haircut and a shave. I do not, sir. I do not. I like my hair and my facial hair. So it's sticking. You cannot withdraw Bitcoin on Robinhood. I thought that was the case. You cannot deposit or withdraw on Robinhood. You know what that means with Robinhood? That is not your Bitcoin. When you buy and sell Bitcoin on Robinhood, that is not your Bitcoin. Boom. That's it, guys. That's it. It's not your Bitcoin. So Cash App, that lets you withdraw Bitcoin to a wallet that you control the private keys of. So keep that in mind. So that's another good option. There's so many options. We could sit here all day talking about all the different exchange options. The thing is, find out what works for you, your state, your country. There's going to be different ones that are available to you and which have different fees. So it's really just about digging around and finding out what kind of works. I mean, you should be able to get your fees for buying Bitcoin with a bank deposit down quite low, like 0.1%, 0.2%. I mean, that's all the more you should be paying. 0.5% Coinbase, you're ridiculous. You're ridiculous, Coinbase. Man, Coinbase. This guys. Has alt season started, says Alex. Alex, you know, the interesting thing about alt season, everyone's waiting for it. Alt season, when are all the alts going to pump up to new all-time highs? Well, I don't know if they're going to pump to new all-time highs anytime soon, but the thing with altcoins is There's been so many that have been doing so well this year. I mean, if you just look around and you get your nose to the ground and hunt those opportunities out, there's been a million opportunities for making good trades and good early moves on coins this year. So, you know, they're out there. They're out there. You don't need to wait for every single cryptocurrency to blast through the roof to be able to take advantage of lots of cool opportunities happening. All right, let's move on here. This one. So, this is a story. Actually, kicked off the whole idea for the live stream today. Nearly 10 billion with a B, $10 billion in Bitcoin is held in the wallets of 8 cryptocurrency exchanges, which is obviously a lot of Bitcoin. A lot of Bitcoin. In fact, around 1.2 million Bitcoin. That's a lot of Bitcoin, guys. Now, this is a situation where the exchanges have got so much power. You see, Coinbase can just increase their fees, and they're probably not going to lose very many people. I mean, some of you guys listening who might have been using Coinbase, you might go, "Oh man, I'm gonna find a better option. I don't want to pay, you know, that much more fees, right? I'd like to find an exchange that offers 80% lower fees, because there's definitely those exchanges out there, or 60% lower fees, or whatever it might be, right? It's just a little bit of research, and you'll save yourself money in the long run." But the money, the amount of trust in exchanges right now, the amount of Bitcoin they own, it's mind-boggling. 1.2 million Bitcoin in the hands of the biggest exchanges. That's crazy. I'm sure if you were to look at the Ethereum for these exchanges as well, it'd also be through the roof. The XRP would be through the roof. I mean, that's a lot of Bitcoin, guys. That's a lot of Bitcoin. And, you know, look, the thing is, you should not be storing your Bitcoin on an exchange. And Bitcoin Hoopties got straight to the point of the topic where we're going to be heading with this conversation, which is about rehypothecation. Rehypothecation. It's good times, guys. That's what it is. So, the Bitcoin Hoopty says, do you think these institutions and exchanges are actively trying to inflate the 21 million Bitcoin cap? Which, if you've probably seen this article floating around, or a variation of this article, which is that the Bitcoin supply could be blown over 21 million. And look, that's not an unlikely situation. What you have right now is basically exchanges have X amount of Bitcoin, right? And rehypothecate. So in case you don't know what rehypothecation is when one person claims ownership over an asset, but that it's also used by others in order to also claim on top of that. So let's say, let's take one Bitcoin, for example. Actually, bonds is probably a better example, because this is probably happening with Bitcoin, but anyway. So with one bond, for example, on Wall Street, on average, there are 3 owners for one, or 3 people who claim ownership for one bond. So you got one, 10-year U.S. Treasury bond. You got 3 different banks who say, nah, we own that, but only actually one of them physically owns it. So that, in a nutshell, is kind of rehypothecation for you, where you have multiple parties claiming ownership, and that's because you have these different paper instruments and things which inflate on top of this. So who's this? You're trying to FUD altcoins so you can make Bitcoin gain out of them. who's saying that? Most alt whales can't wait to dump their bags. I think it really depends on the altcoins first. That's a whole different conversation. Anyway, besides the point, rehypothecation. So, you are definitely looking at a situation where the more paper products we have coming in for Bitcoin, the more likelihood that we will have rehypothecation of these different assets. Now, are exchanges doing that right now? Hard to say. We don't necessarily have any proof of that. There's been a lot of suspicion of this kind of stuff going on for some time, especially with the different margin services, for example. Do they necessarily have those? Well, hard to say. But if we look at what Wall Street's bringing, I think that's where the real risk I see anyway coming in for rehypothecation. Because if you see, well, look, the backed futures, for example, they're backed 1-to-1. Backed futures are backed. So yeah, they're backed 1-to-1 with Bitcoin, and they're physically delivered, right? So if you have a situation of physically delivered Bitcoin, well, you can't really rehypothecate those because they get delivered, right? But what I've always been worried about with the likes of Bakkt is that Bakkt is just the first through the door. It's kind of the Trojan horse, if you will. They get that through, and then, well, we start to bring in some other stuff that is not like that, right? So it's definitely, I think, a long-term concern, but none of it actually technically changes the supply of, Bitcoin by any means. I think that's kind of perhaps a slight misconception with some people who might think about this topic. There will still only ever be 21 million Bitcoin, et cetera, but will people try to play some games with those, particularly Wall Street? Do you know Wall Street? You guys know what's up with Wall Street. Those guys love playing these games. That is their game. That is their game. That is the game of Wall Street. So this is one of the reasons why I've never been excited about Wall Street getting into Bitcoin. Yeah, sure, they're going to bring a lot of money along, but they're also going to bring all of their damn tricks along with them. So there's that. PA asks, can you talk about China, Hong Kong, and Bitcoin? Well, it's certainly an interesting topic. Obviously, look, Hong Kong has seen a lot of volume for Bitcoin on local Bitcoins, and there's been premiums being paid in Hong Kong and Hong Kong dollars recently. I feel like it's one of those things like, yeah, is it a use case? Definitely. Is it perhaps being made a bit bigger than it probably really is by the Bitcoin community? Probably, but the whole Hong Kong thing's crazy. It's you look at what's going on with like the facial recognition and all this stuff, and it's totally nuts. And there's a reason why cash is so damn valuable, because cash allows for privacy of transactions. And that's where I see, in particular, privacy coins really coming in the future, is privacy of transactions. Because as the FATF's travel rules start to rule out here in the coming year to 2 years, we're going to see the de-anonymization of a lot of Bitcoin addresses, unfortunately. So that's problematic. Exchanges are going to have to play ball if they want to stay in business. Yeah, decentralized exchanges will be important, but the fiat on-ramps and off-ramps, that's going to be another trick yet again. So there's definitely attempts by the government to try and wrangle all of this in. But just because they may de-anonymize something, to the extent that they are going to try to do it, does not, of course, affect, again, the Bitcoin network. It affects the points of sale, right? Points of sale are very important. I've seen people say, like, well, what if they ban Bitcoin, right? Well, they can't ban Bitcoin. They can't shut down Bitcoin, right? What they can do, though, is make it a heck of a lot harder for people to buy and to sell it. Now, if you look at the China context, has the Chinese government hurt the Bitcoin industry in China? Yes, they've killed liquidity in a big way, but at the same time, there is a thriving black market, which is just as big as, if not potentially bigger than, it's hard to say exactly because we don't, it's all on the black market. There's no registration of how much volume is going on in the black market, but it is reported to be very, very large. So China couldn't stop it. China couldn't ban it because no one can ban it. No one can shut the blockchain down. They can just make it harder to buy. So there's that. Anyway, I think the ability of censorship-resistant money is incredibly powerful. Incredibly powerful. You look at capital controls on countries around the world, and super, super interesting. Hey, Lark, what do you think about XRP getting its own stablecoin, says 179 Kevin? Well, that's an interesting question. I saw that the other day. It's David Schwartz, right? I was reading his blog post today, or whatever that was, his post about some of the things he might like to see coming to XRP in the future, and that was an interesting one. An XRP collateralized stablecoin. Fascinating idea. I mean, look, others have collateralized stable coins as well, so could XRP do that? I don't know. Why not, I suppose. It would bring in some interesting questions about, I guess, the need for XRP itself, if you have a stable coin, which is definitely not going to change any value and is equally quickly transferable and all that fun kinds of stuff. But anyway, XRP, the cryptocurrency that wants to be the best friend with banks. Never been massively interesting for me because of that, even though I have held XRP at some different points in my past and all that fun stuff. But the more I learn, the less I get excited about it. And yeah, okay, you can look and say, okay, we want fast transactions and all this stuff. But you know, Lark, how do you feel about the XRP army versus Bitcoin maximalists? I'm a huge Bitcoin fan. I do hold XRP. I see XRP as maybe the new one world currency and Bitcoin as a store of value. Well, that's an interesting question, Crypto Lifer. Honestly, you know, just because the whole tribalist thing, it's redonkulous. It's absolutely redonkulous. And honestly, I think a lot of regular people who are Bitcoin maximalists, for the sense of like, well, I just don't have time to, you know, research into other stuff. I just want to buy Bitcoin. It's the easiest. I see it as the safest. I totally get that, right? Or if you just think Bitcoin's got the best chance of success, again, I totally get that. That's all fine. But like, in terms of like the Bitcoin maximalist influencers, not a lot of time for most of them. They're, you know, it's most of these guys, they're in, you know, advising Ethereum startups and stuff like that. And it's just the whole thing's a game, you know, but overall, I feel like, man, invest in the coins you want to invest in. You know, if you see value in it, if you like it, if you think that that's got future, then, you know, if you've done your research and you think that you know what's up and you think that you really, really believe in that, rock it, man. Rock it. I'm not going to sit here and tell you, hey, if you're an XRP fan and if you want to see, you know, the fees come down for banks and, you know, the support of liquidity for banks and all that stuff, like, that's not my game. You know, that's, I want to take power away from the banks, not help them get more power, right? But that's the way I see it. You guys can disagree. If some of you guys are XRP fans and perhaps see it differently, that XRP has a different use case with the banks besides that, but you know, it's not me. I am more of a Bitcoin fan. I'm more of an Ethereum fan, for example. The thing is, if you look at, think about Ethereum 2.0, right? You got Ethereum 2.0 and stablecoins running on top of it. So that in of itself is a challenge to, for example, the XRP business model, right? And sure, it doesn't have as many relationships as XRP does with banks right now. But that being said, if you had this open Ethereum public network with lots of stable coins running on top of it, becomes very interesting. The fees become incredibly low on Ethereum 2.0 anyway. Bobby says the biggest threat to Bitcoin has to be quantum computing. I disagree. I think the quantum computing thing definitely got overblown, without a doubt. You know, we are decades away from a quantum computer that is going to be able to attack Bitcoin in any substantial way. Decades away, right? And even if that situation comes about, the first point of contact, of course, is going to be wallets, exchanges, all that fun kind of stuff. But the Bitcoin ledger itself, I mean, we're not going there for an incredibly long time in terms of any kind of quantum computing actually being a threat to the Bitcoin ledger itself and being able to go back and, you know, unlock addresses that have been dormant for years and all this kind of stuff. Theoretical possibility? Yes. Theoretical possibility, though it remains until we have an advancement in technology, and chances are that by the time we get even close to having those conversations in earnest seriousness, that this is, you know, an actual imminent threat that's 5 or 10 years away, not 20 or 30 years away, then we will have code which helps upgrade Bitcoin in the same way that we've moved forward before, right? It's not that Bitcoin is not upgradable. And I think a lot of people might sometimes have that confusion where they think, well, Bitcoin just is and it never upgrades. We've had lots of upgrades to Bitcoin. You know, SegWit being a great example of that. We can have new upgrades to Bitcoin that will help it continue to bob and weave as time goes on. Nothing can stay the same forever, right? Imagine if Bitcoin ever upgraded, there's no way that it'll be the money of the future and all that fun stuff. It just won't be. Hyrule dude, what are the chances that Bitcoin will upgrade? Chances are great. Chances are great. I don't see any reason why we wouldn't see an upgrade in Bitcoin. The reason the upgrades in Bitcoin are slow is because obviously there's no clear, voting mechanism or whatever it might be. But yes, Bitcoin will upgrade to meet the future quantum threat that is decades away at best. So, be chilling on the quantum stuff, guys. We're good right now. As miners go away, when Bitcoin halves, the hash power will become more centralized. Look, the centralization of mining power, it's an interesting conversation we've been on for years, right? Without a doubt. But will the halving necessarily be a result in that? I don't think so. I think a lot of people are already upgrading their miners, and it'll be not a great change in how decentralized the overall network is. Gunner Punch Drunk asks, I was curious what would happen if a company like Ledger goes out of business. What would happen to our assets on our hardware wallet? Gunner, I made a great video on Ledger, basically answering all of these questions that people kind of continually come up with. But let me just give you the quick breakdown of it here. But I'd say definitely go watch my Ledger Nano X tutorial video. The second half of it kind of answers all these kind of common questions about that. But just the short version here, basically, if Ledger goes bankrupt tomorrow, Ledger's bankrupt, right? That does not mean that you are not going to be able to access your Bitcoin on your Ledger, right? It's a hardware device. It is separate from the company, right? The seed phrase that you have, you can take that to other wallets which have a similar standard, for example, which is why it's so important that you protect your seed phrases. They're super, super important, right? And let's say that, okay, Ledger goes down tomorrow and you go, man, holy crap. Well, then that's your wake-up call, get another hardware wallet, transfer your funds over, for example. But so long as you control that seed phrase, you are going to be able to recover your funds. So I recommend go watch the video. That's just a short version. It's I said much more eloquently in the other video and go much more in depth on a lot of the most kind of frequently asked questions about the Ledger and sort of the security of hardware wallets. Okay, let's move on here. So, all right. So yeah, continuing on the topic of the power of exchanges. It's so funny because everyone got so gosh darn excited about BACT, right? And yeah, I got excited about BACT too, and I still am, excited. Anyway, anticipation of the launching of BACT, and yes, I think long term, even though the first couple weeks were very lackluster for BACT, I think long term we are still going to see a massive impact from the world's biggest exchange launching a cryptocurrency product. That being said, the story not a lot of people talked about was Binance futures contracts. Those things went crazy, and they're still going crazy. They're doing massive volume on Binance futures. So look, obviously, it's Binance, right? So there will be people who simply won't go over there. I'm talking about the institutions, right? They're not going to be over there trading. This is for retail, right? So this is retail futures contracts for people that are not based in the US. But a lot of these institutions and stuff, they're not playing on Binance, right? They're currently playing on the CME for the ones who want it. The CME is bringing in Bitcoin options soon, so that's a whole nother level of fun that the big money players are bringing in to Bitcoin. That being said, long term, I'm still looking at BACT to have a big impact, but the futures game, it's not all about the institutions these days, guys. And I think that the likes of Binance with their actual futures contracts, but also their perpetual swap contracts as well, and the likes of others like BYBIT and BitMEX and stuff. I mean, there's a big market out there for longing and shorting the future prices of Bitcoin. And in another, I guess, the power of exchanges growing, the power of exchanges growing is really about, we see lending products and things like this being brought out. We see staking, for example. Binance is also bringing out staking. So these two things, we see more and more power concentrating and more crypto concentrating in the hands of a few incredibly powerful exchanges. And this is probably going to continue because these big guys are simply going to have the liquidity necessary to attract a wider range of traders. So, it's I think this is a really important part of the situation when we talk about exchanges becoming like banks. So it's not just about like Coinbase giving you 1.25% interest on USDC, but also about being able to lend out a wide range of different products to provide liquidity for the margin services on Binance, for example. But also you see the staking coming in too. And, staking is not that hard. It really isn't. But for a lot of people, they just don't do it. They just don't do it. It's like a YouTube video, right? Only 10% of people are going to click the like button, right? The other 90% of people, they're not going to do it. Takes 1 second. Down there, hit the like button, guys. No, but seriously, it's a good analogy, and I think the same thing happens with a lot of cryptocurrencies. You look at staking statistics for a lot of cryptocurrencies, right? I mean, they're probably higher than it would be if you had a wider swath of people invested into cryptocurrencies. But I still think, like, if you had, like, I don't know, if all cryptocurrencies was super mainstream, you'd probably only have like 10% of people staking most of the time. Not many people run nodes. Not many people are actively staking any of their cryptocurrencies, whether it just be through laziness or whatever, right? Everyone's got their own thing, but when you can just do it as simply as just you deposit your cryptocurrency on an exchange, and they give you money back, or give you cryptocurrency back in terms of your staking reward. Come on, man. Of course they're going to do it. Of course people are going to do that. Of course it's going to be popular. In the end, it'll probably bring up the amount of staked cryptocurrency, but on the flip side, again, we're just giving so much power to the cryptocurrency exchanges. And look, I'm a Binance fan, right? I've liked using Binance for a long time, but I don't necessarily think everyone should just be, staking all their cryptocurrencies and all this stuff. And it's a lot of power in the hands of just a couple organizations. But that's the centralization of power. That's where we're heading. We are going to see, Binance and Coinbase and a couple of others growing to be the new JP Morgans and Banks of America and all this fun kind of stuff. So, yeah, I'm not excited about centralization of power. It's just an inevitable consequence, right? They offer the best services. They offer, the most liquidity and all this stuff. So, of course, people are going to gravitate towards these centers of gravity. Jemson says, isn't Binance banned in the... Jemson, yes, Binance is... well, it's not... Bann's probably the wrong word. Binance has stopped offering their services for the international branch, which has the margin trading and futures contracts and lending and staking and all that fun stuff over. So that's just for the international crowd. But Binance US will have a fiat on and off ramp, as well as offering a range of tradable coins over there. So there's that. Lark, please speak on the quantum. James at the water cooler, you just missed it. You just missed it, man. If you just came into the chat, we talked about that like 5 minutes ago. Unless you're talking about QTUM, the cryptocurrency. But if you are, I have no idea about that. If you're talking about the quantum stuff, we just talked about that. So you just welcome to chat, dude. Welcome to chat. Okay, so let's move on to the next bit here, and that is actually the not your keys, not your Bitcoin. Not your keys, not your Bitcoin. So the Proof of Keys event, in case you guys didn't know, this is an initiative by Trace Mayer for basically once a year everybody takes their Bitcoin off of exchanges to, make sure that they actually own their Bitcoin, right? Now, not a lot of people participate, like most things, like we were just talking about. Only a small percentage of people actually participate, but the initiative is a good idea because really, at the end of the day, you should be in control of your cryptocurrency. Now, look, if you want to, lend some of it out, for example, using a service like crypto.com or BlockFi or something like that, that's cool. I personally lend out about 20% of my Bitcoin to those services, but I maintain my hands on the majority of it just because not your keys, not your Bitcoin, right? There's always a risk. There's always a risk. So that's something to keep in mind when it comes down to that kind of stuff. Now, the power of exchanges is a dangerous thing because of this over here. That Bitfinex. Because of Bitfinex. I mean, look, Bitfinex launched Tether, right? That relationship was hidden until the Panama Papers revealed that the people who own Bitfinex are also the people who owned Tether. Now, look, Tether has been a mess for a variety of reasons for a long time, from, jumping from banking partner to the whole crypto capital thing and the links to money laundering and all the fun stuff you can basically imagine with Tether. So now being really only, I guess they had that, $1 billion ICO for the Leo token on Bitfinex, and anyway, the whole thing with Bitfinex is it's an exchange that got a lot of power, right? And Bitfinex was the king daddy for quite a while back in crypto land, right? And if you look at the power that Bitfinex got, it corrupted them. They're probably already corrupt, considering all the stuff that Bitfinex has done. Yeah, no. But still, we see, for example, now exchanges launching their own stable coins, for example. And look, the stablecoin space has become a lot better since back in the day. And I am just waiting for, really, Tether to just quietly go away, but it doesn't. People keep using it. There's so many great options out there besides Tether. If you want to be using stablecoins, man, use USDC, use Paxos, use DAI. DAI's, crypto collateralized. Everything's transparent on chain. Use anything else except Tether. But people keep using Tether. Ah. Anyway, someone is suing Bitfinex, saying that Bitfinex and Tether have manipulated the markets substantially, which in all likelihood they've at least played some kind of a role in that. Let's keep it real. Now, they have manipulated the market and cost the crypto markets $1.4 trillion. So it's a class action lawsuit. And it's an interesting case for a lot of different reasons, because it really makes Bitfinex, let's assume that they haven't. Let's assume that everything about Bitfinex and Tether, it's a lie. It's a lie. They're totally above board. They're totally the best ever. So in that situation, well, then they're forced to kind of approve it, right, in this class action lawsuit. And if not, well, then they're forced to defend themselves, potentially. So whether this will go much of anywhere, it's hard to say, really. But it is certainly interesting that someone's even trying to go that route with Bitfinex and Tether. They must have a lot of money, honestly, to be able to go through with all that fun stuff, because I'm sure the lawyers are not cheap, and I'm sure Bitfinex is able to afford very good lawyers, because all they have to do is print the money. Hey, you guys accept Tether for those lawyer services? Jemson says, I wonder what happens to the value of USDT if the USD plummets. Well, that is part of the problem of stablecoins overall. If you have a stablecoin, it is linked to the value of dollars, which, as our next story shows, is highly problematic. So the chairman of the Federal Reserve came out and said that the Fed will start expanding its balance sheet in response to funding issues. These guys are hilarious. They're hilarious. we're going to start expanding our balance sheet pretty soon in response to funding issues. Just say you're going to print money, man. Just say it. Just say it. You're printing money. You're front running everybody, giving it over to your banker buddies for virtually nothing. They're front running everybody. So yeah, this is the problem of basically USD collateralized stablecoins, is that you've attached it to a basically permanently inflating asset, which is the illusion of the dollar, right? So that's problematic. And this is interesting, of course, because it comes after weeks of the emergency bailout of the repo market. So there's that as well, all kind of playing into the factor here. So no, that makes me even less excited about stablecoins, especially for long-term. Look, I mean, if you're going as a trader's tool, obviously stablecoins are very useful, and that's where Tether, for example, gets so damn much of its volume that it is used as a trader's tool, right? They go in and out of it for trading back and forth for Bitcoin. They could just as easily be using USDC or anything else, but Tether it was the first one there, so people just started using it more, and they keep using it. It's become some kind of terrible habit, you know? Anyway, so that's a problem. That's a problem. The long-term power of the dollar, it's just going to keep inflating. It's just going to keep inflating. You know, it's crazy. I look at my lifetime, right? And I think it's 138% inflation in my lifetime of the dollar. So, you know, $1 when I was born, you now need about $2.38 to make up that same value. So that's, you know, you think about how crazy that is, right? So yeah, long-term dollar, not super interesting as like a stable coin hold. And then of course, so that's a part of the problem with stable coins too. You got the stable coin, which you need to, you know, you have to trust in basically the central banks. So you're having to trust the monetary policy of a central bank. Then you have to trust a third party service to be holding that money in a bank, and then you get it. A lot of trust issues there. Whereas Bitcoin, you just get your Bitcoin and it is your Bitcoin. Piano Olympics, thank you very much for the donation. Really, really appreciate it. Long Bitcoin and long Ethereum. Awesome stuff, man. Awesome stuff. Thank you so much. Now, if you want to, I guess, I don't know, it's tricky because even a gold-backed stablecoin, well, then you still have to trust that somebody's got a vault full of gold sitting there, right? That's problematic again. This is why Bitcoin is Bitcoin, right? You don't have to trust the monetary policy of a totally unaccountable central bank. You don't have to trust a company that has, you know, money sitting in a bank somewhere supposedly. And that's been the problem with Tether. It's just, maybe Tether has been on the up and up. And as much as I extremely doubt that, maybe they were. But you still, the fact that you have to trust these people who are totally non-transparent is the problem in of itself. This is why Bitcoin, you don't have to trust that someone somewhere, and you know what the monetary policy of Bitcoin is. It, you know, the halving drops 50%, right? Every 4 years. Easy, right? And you can look on the block explorer and you see, oh, there's my Bitcoin. I can access it anytime from anywhere. No one's permission is needed for this. So yeah, there's all that stuff to think about. Mark Santa says, "Why is nobody talking about?" Man, everybody's talking about Chainlink. I'm not talking about Chainlink, I guess, in this in this live stream. But holy cow, people are talking about Chainlink everywhere, all the time, man, all the time. Chainlink's probably one of the most talked about cryptocurrencies going these days. Ethereum desperately needs decentralized finance. The DApp narrative is out the window, and so are ICOs. Rogby Nepe, I agree. I totally agree with that statement on Ethereum, my man, because seriously, Ethereum right now, the ICO thing, it is long finished, right? And ICOs were replaced by IEOs, which basically meant that you need exchange tokens to participate in these initial offerings, should you want to be participating in those initial offerings. So there's that problem, right? Decentralized finance, though, on Ethereum, well, that starts to become very interesting. Look, will there still be initial sales held on Ethereum? Yeah, of course there will be. But where Ethereum is really going to get its value is from things like crypto collateralized loans, crypto collateralized, I guess, lending on the other side of those loans, looking at peer-to-peer lending, stablecoin transactions, micro loans, the lottery. You guys heard about that lottery that they've got running? I think it's they run it on Compound Finance. They might run it on Compound Finance. Anyway, the lottery is basically a no lose lottery. So you put in, I think it's maybe I think the lower limits actually, but it was $20 with a die. You put in $20 with a die, then everybody pools the money together. They put it on Compound Finance. They gain the interest from it, and then at the end of like a 1 week or 2 week period, somebody wins all the interest, everybody else gets their money back. So that's pretty interesting. Xenophobic Crab. What do you think about digital inheritance and being able to provide keys to loved ones in the event of a passing? Well, it's very important. It's inheritance is a fascinating question because I think not enough people think about it. Like they I'm in charge of the Bitcoin, right? But man, you got to make sure that if something happens to you, because you could walk out today and get hit by a bus. And watch out for buses, guys. Nobody's talking about it. It's ridiculous. Buses are a massive, massive killer. You got to be careful out there, guys. Buses, they're gonna sneak. Probably one behind you right now. So be careful about buses. Anyway, so in all seriousness, guys, look, the inheritance question is a great one. You should make sure that your loved ones know how to recover your Bitcoin should something happen to you, right? And if we talk about, a will, for example, well, I mean, you have to trust that, your lawyer is not going to open your will letter before something happens or whatever. But look, honestly, you should be planning for that eventuality. You should at least, tell, your husband or your wife, hey, look, this is how to recover this Bitcoin if you need to. Or, tell your kids, like, hey, look, here's, a safety deposit box and whatever it is where the seed phrase is stored. But it's definitely something to think about. We've had a lot of lost Bitcoin over the ages, partially because of people not planning for the inevitable, right? I mean, what's the old saying is, life, no one gets out alive. Mice Elf. Well, that's a good question. We're going to finish up here in a couple minutes. That's a good question. Mice Elf, how do you plan on giving back to the community after you make your massive crypto gains? Well, I think the giving question is one that, something is worth everyone kind of thinking about, because this is an interesting concept I had, and I've mentioned it before, but I'll mention it again, is basically that the one thing that you can buy with Bitcoin today and probably have no regrets over, and that I've done and have no regrets over, is giving to charity, for example. There's a lot of great ones out there, like the Water Project. I know there's quite a few different ones. I think the Rainforest Trust, they accept Bitcoin as well. And a whole host of different other ones, right? Because no matter what the price of Bitcoin is tomorrow, that money can help someone today, right? And so, look, there's a few different things. Maybe you plan for future, right? And so you can think, okay, I'm going to, make as much money as I can in the next 5 years with cryptocurrencies, and then I'm going to start, 5% a year or whatever, 10% a year I'm going to give out to charities. And it doesn't have to be to, help the orangutans. I help the orangutans. I love the orangutans. But maybe it's just something in your local community, right? Or maybe you just take time off to volunteer or something like that. And I think that overall vision, and I've talked about this in lots of videos, but yeah, getting stuff's cool. Stuff, man. Stuff, cool. But, stuff only goes so far, right? Living a life of kind of financial freedom and being able to, give back your time, your energy to do the things that really make you happy in life, that's pretty cool. If you haven't read the 4 Hour Work Week by Tim Ferriss, interesting read. Interesting read for anyone out there who's like, oh man, my 9-to-5 job. Check that out because it's definitely a worthwhile time having a read of that. So something to think about. Where are we at here? I had this one here actually too. So this is an interesting little bit. We'll answer one or two more questions here, but I just wanted to mention this here as well. So Gods Unchained, they're a crypto collectible, basically like Magic the Gathering on Ethereum. So you own your own cards. It's a pretty cool game. So apparently Blizzard, the big gaming company, they removed a Hong Kong-based Hearthstone player from the Grand Masters and suspended him and his pro play for 1 year for, talking political stuff about what's going on in Hong Kong right now. I think that was at the behest of the authorities. So pretty damn cool for Gods Unchained to step up, for free speech and free gaming, as they say, and pretty crappy of Blizzard. But I mean, got these big companies and they'd rather throw one person under the bus than stand up for something most of the time, unfortunately. So there you go. Jemson says, Rich Dad, Poor Dad. Yeah, there's a lot of great books. And honestly, it's reading some of those classic books about, building wealth and that kind of long-term vision. Stuff like the Richest Man in Babylon, for example, and some of the Tony Robbins stuff as another example. I mean, that stuff's great. I mean, that's the kind of stuff that really helps you have that bigger vision, right? About building long-term, game-changing, like financial freedom. Because yeah, man, buying stuff, it's cool, man. But it's a different thing, right? So if you can have that fun, then yeah. Sound asks, is Tim Ferriss making YouTube videos each day? Tim Ferriss is not. I think he does like a monthly or weekly blog post. But I have fun doing what I do. I love it. I love making videos. It's a pleasure and an honor, guys. I really, really do. I enjoy making videos. I enjoy getting to talk about cryptocurrency. It's like my freaking hobby, man. And it's great to be able to share my hobby with everyone, and of course share cryptocurrencies with everyone. So it's part of my giving back and all that fun stuff too. So Steban Lewansky, not gonna lie, Tony Robbins inspired. Yeah, Tony Robbins, man, he's great. He's been a big inspiration. Actually, it's funny. I've been thinking about going to a Tony Robbins event one of these days. It's kind of been a long-term thing. Like, I should go to Tony. I finally gonna do it. Gonna go to a Tony Robbins event one of these days. So it's unfortunate. I didn't even realize he had one in Sydney like 2 weeks ago. I was like, no! I learned about it like the day before. But yeah. Anyway, I will definitely go to one of those in the future. It's just, I think getting out there and that personal development stuff, like actually, yeah, cryptocurrencies, cool. I love it. It's great. It's a big hobby of mine. It's amazing, right? But there's a lot more to life than Bitcoin. Is the note to finish on. There's more to life than Bitcoin, guys. There really is, though, and it's having that greater life purpose and appreciation and drive and all this stuff. That Bitcoin's just part of the journey. It's part of the journey, guys, and you guys are part of the journey too. So I seriously thank you all for coming and listening to me talk about cryptocurrencies for a while. I think I might start trying to make the live stream kind of like maybe a weekly event. I'm not going to nail down a time or anything like that, but I will try and let you guys at least know a heads up. There'll be a live stream like tomorrow or something. For example, there's not going to be a live stream tomorrow, but that there will be coming in the future. So keep an eye out for that. I'll try and do these more. I forgot how fun they were. It's been a few months since I've done one, but we'll try and make them like a weekly thing anyway. So that'll be fun. Anyway, you guys are freaking awesome. Thank you so much for coming out and talking crypto. The conversation in the chat been totally awesome. So thank you guys. And of course, big thank you to the moderators for helping to keep the chat a clean and fun and family-friendly place. You guys rock. All right. Long live the blockchain. And peace out till next time.